Okay, so it's May 26th. I'm going to give one more shot on this video. The reason I'm having a hard time with it is twofold. One, it's everything. It's so important, but I don't think I have the ability to give it its due or put it into words. With all my videos, I leave that up to the great sages, the great gurus, the great gods, the texts, the scriptures. But it's so important and so valuable, but it took me forever to understand it. And I don't want to act like, therefore, maybe I'm way late. Everybody else understands it, and I'm the last one to figure it out. I'm not saying I'm advanced or something like that. It's just, boy, this one hit me as something that's so important. And all I can really guess is say it was a biggie for me. Maybe somebody else too. But it's such a big thing, and it kind of blew me out so much that it's one of those deals that you can't put in words. Kind of reminds me of a talk I listened to with the Swami, but it's also written in all the various texts that you can't describe God because it's beyond words. And so we have the whole idea of consciousness, and then we have the idea of the stuff. And you can describe stuff in words, but you can't describe the pure truth except to say it's like this or like that. And so this is kind of interesting, and maybe this is going to be so self-evident and obvious for everybody, but for me it was to have the realization of this as opposed to just a scholarly look or an understanding of reading, and it's just such a different viewpoint when it becomes you. So the title of this is You Are What You Think, and there's the line. Maybe that's all it should be, and I should end this. And I remember hearing that from the great Buddha. And this video also will show that all the great sages and religions, to me, it almost comes down to this basic idea of you are what you think. And that's what I'm going to try to communicate here. There is a quote, I'm sorry I don't have it, I didn't put it in writing, but it's a very quick one. And by the way, if you Google You Are What You Think, you're going to get more great thinkers, authors, speakers, philosophers, religions on. They're going to be showing you in all of its purity and clarity that there are many words for the same truth, which is one of the great Vedanta principles, and that there are many, many paths to the same God or consciousness. So You Are What You Think is the title, and here we go. So I found this one from Buddha, which is great, but I think he was the one when I was reading, and he said, you are what you think. And here's another way of saying it. What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create. There's another one from Gandhi. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. I thought that was beautiful. You ever notice that sometimes we think something like the great New Year's resolution, I think this, but then something takes hold and a week later you're not even close to doing that or being that? Something out there is affecting your thought. So I'm just going to add my little 2 cents on this. You are what you think, but you are what you focus on. And I think that was my great personal realization that helped me understand the what you think. I had to see a little shift there in my application of in meditation, which I'm going to describe later. But the more we can, as the great Vedanta, they talk about focus on God, focus on consciousness, focus on love, purity, sattva. The more we focus on that, the closer we get to truth. And so in a lot of the meditations I've read in Vedanta Hinduism, we're learning to focus. So if the stuff out there is causing us to focus on that, then that's what we become. as opposed to we're in control, we're the ones making our focus, which then says that we are totally in control of our life and our well-being. So we have these choices. And this became so self-evident, I guess what I'm saying. I think we've all known that. I mean, how many times have I read that? But to actually see it in action is really something. But there's an important aspect of this that I wanted to bring up. So let me just bring up this particular quote. I've brought this up many, many times. And it's from that Sermon on the Mount book, where I'm trying to, in the book, they're showing the similarity, not in words, but in concept, of the great religions, specifically Christianity and Vedanta Hinduism. And in there, there's a section on being perfection, on perfection spiritually, consciousness-wise, be one with God. So there's a great focus. And in it, it talks about how, well, let me just read it. Behind every human effort, there is a desire, unconscious and misdirected though it may be. We don't even realize it. But we are inside trying to find Sat Chit Ananda, which is consciousness God. It's eternal knowledge, love, and bliss, as it says. So that's where we're all going. It's not survival. It's not make money. It's not, that's the ultimate inside. That's where we're going. And we can see so many things somewhat related to that. But we waste our energies, as it continues, in ephemeral achievements. Ephemeral meaning short term. So all the stuff is short term, temporary. The only eternal would be the consciousness. We keep looking to the... let me read that again. We waste our energies in ephemeral achievements, looking for infinite reward in the finite, in the stuff. And that's kind of the key here, is that one of the things I've been realizing more and more as I meditate, the mindfulness meditation, is seeing that all of the stuff out there is constantly made up of positives and negatives, yin and yang. Look at our political world, the Democrats, Republicans fighting, battling, it's everywhere. And quite frankly, everybody thinks they're right. Everybody thinks they're right. And so we're battling and if we get fixated on it, we become it, and gosh, we can feel terrible. So only after we have passed through many experiences of pleasure and pain does spiritual discrimination dawn on us. That's where we'll find the ultimate eternal truth. Consciousness, love, bliss. So I think it's very powerful. And there was a quote I was going to show you, but it talked about the same thing, that we just keep spinning over and over again. We see this flow of thought, same stuff over and over and over again. And we try to solve it when the truth is all right here. You know, I also wanted to find something on that for me. If I stare inside at my body, I get a headache. So when it says looking inside, to me, that when I think of pure consciousness, I think of an infinite bubble. Whereas, and then I feel good. I feel oneness. And to me, that's where I'm going, or where maybe everybody's going. I don't know. But what all of this is saying is that as Maya, as it's called, that will not give us our answers. Yes, it gives us short-term answers. And yes, we can have short-term pleasure by paying our bills or having money or taking care of our family. But we're talking about a different type of pleasure, a different type of consciousness, love. And that's what I think is the real goal. And so I think it's really interesting to see this whole idea. I mean, maybe that's really now what I think about it. For me, it was seeing it in action. Seeing how profoundly important that idea is. You are what you think. You are what you focus on, because that you can totally control. Maybe I can say it took me 50 years to realize that. So it's easier said than done, might be. But then I wanted to comment again on what I think are some of the great paths out of the great texts on how to achieve that. And so let me pull up a couple things. I've mentioned these before. Oh, so we're not reading that as I'm telling this other story. One of the great things that I read, my wife really loved this, and it's one of the great swamis. He's out of New York. He's still alive. In fact, I think he's coming to Sacramento to talk soon. The Vedanta Hindu Center. But he had this great example, or he was talking about when you first start meditating, and I brought this up on a couple videos. He calls it black rock, white rock. And he talks about when you first start meditating, your mind can be full of bad thoughts, uncomfortable thoughts. And he called those black rocks. And you have this jar full of, that's your mind. And you start meditating, and a lot of black rocks can percolate up. And please have it known that if you replace those black rocks, let them poof away and replace them with a white rock, or just replace the bad thought with a good thought, a loving thought, black rock, white rock, that eventually that mind, that jar becomes full of white rocks when initially it looks like an overwhelming amount of black rocks. I will tell you that that's a great, is that an analogy, a metaphor? I don't know. It's like black rocks and white rocks. It works. That's what I wanted to say. And I love that. I love simplicity. And what a simple thing to say. Black rocks, and keep replacing it, keep working at it. The great Vivekananda said, just give meditation a shot, but and see if you're smiling more a month or two. And you know what? It's not just in meditation, it's in life. So continue to realize you are what you think, and that as you aren't being directed by black rocks. You aren't being directed by what's out there and what you focus on. You're being directed by your own truth, by your own focus, by your purity of consciousness. Things change. And so I wanted to tell that story, and then I wanted to build this up again because it gets back to, I think, these are so important, and I've brought it up before, the four immeasurables of Buddha. What a great path. And he says, it's funny, these words, he says, continue to cultivate the four immeasurables. They're not going to happen overnight, just like black rock, white rock doesn't happen overnight. But if you continue to work on it, watch how your life changes. Now, ultimately for me, I worked on these, and then I started to see the profound beauty of you are what you think. That gives you total control of your life. It's everything. I'm sure there's other everythings that I'll discover as I continue, but this one was just too profound. I had to talk about it. So again, the four immeasurables, continue to cultivate the four immeasurables. I know I love meditating every day on others being happy. It makes me happy. And the third one, sympathetic joy, is being happy with someone else's fortune and happiness. That's beauty. Just try it. Help others. In meditation, offer joy to others, however you want to do that. And see, it's a similar thing. It's the black rocks to white rocks, or just build white rocks. Build beauty and love in your universe, in your space, and see how you feel. This fourth one is equanimity, and that's what's up here. They talk about what's called mindfulness meditation, where you can just be one with bliss, be purity and consciousness. And if you actually gain an attitude of the body is no longer running your life. The feelings and sensations aren't controlling your life. Eatingness isn't controlling your life. Drinkingness, the mind, you end up detaching from it all, and those things aren't running you anymore. And that's just, to me, that's kind of the cultivating all of this is, to me, the simplicity of Buddhism. I haven't read enough Buddhism to know, and maybe a bunch of Buddhists would say, you're shortchanging it, Jim. You're not talking enough about it. Well, this is what I know. This is simply what I read, and I don't want to complicate it. I think mindfulness meditation is simple. It's you notice it and you let it go. Maybe we can say you notice it and let it go and replace it with beauty and love. Black rock, white rock. To me, that's simplicity. And what happens is, in my mind, at least a step for me, is that you start becoming senior, or you're not part of Maya. You're not twisting in the wind, constantly trying to find answers in the yin and yang of life. And that you can that you are just not being controlled and directed by it, and you're the one. And if we continue to cultivate all of these points, like the four immeasurables and mindfulness, we arrive. I guess maybe that's a good way to put it. I want to say that in life, I read once, and I believe this completely, just start serving others. Helping others is another thing that can cultivate all of these points. In fact, let me even say one more. I'll put this up here if I can find it. Yeah. The four yogas, a hallmark of the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible of India. I will say that I learned from the great Ramakrishna of the late 1800s, and consequently, because I believe he's, in essence, similar in concept to Lord Jesus, but the easiest path to self-realization and oneness with God is Bhakti Yoga, as it's called, the path of devotion and love. So you want to make it real simple, that's it. And I have been learning lately that Karma Yoga, which is a path of action, actually through working without doing it for little s self, but for the bigger picture, for that you can actually gain self-realization and joy and happiness. I think that's a remarkable statement, and it's taken me, I read that years ago, and I'm finally gone, I see it. I see it, and I have no idea where these paths will end, and maybe it's just forever. I don't know. Maybe I'll just I'm just going to keep working on it. But we'll continue to find out that identification with the body or the mind, we use those things, but that's not who we are. And we continue to move from little s self to the big S, self-realization, one with God, whatever words we want to use. But I just, this realization and this power of you are what you think, and I added the you are what you focus on. So I'm just going to continue to focus on consciousness, beauty, truth. And I find that the stuff that keeps affecting me is decreasing. And maybe that's ultimately the goal. And it just makes me cry with joy. I don't know what's left. But it's a beautiful thing to see. And I've always felt that once you start to see what's happening, that you're getting there. Whatever there is. And I might have a million more theirs to get to, but this was a big one. And so I wanted to pass on the truths of the great saints. Yeah, I think this stuff works, and I thank Vedanta Hinduism and Lord Ramakrishna and Vivekananda and the great Buddha, all of them. Yeah, thank you for putting these things in words and being there as a light for all of us. Okay, that should do it.